End of January 2023. My name is Priscilla Regina Nelwoga. Now we take note of equal opportunities for all here in Uganda. We do have a commission that is just for that, to ensure that there is equal recognition of opportunity in the different entities of government. Now, speaking of government, the government of Uganda is committed to achieving Vision 2040 under the theme Transformed Ugandan Society from a peasant to a modern and prosperous country within 30 years. Now, similar to that, Uganda's National Development Plan 3 goal is to increase household incomes and improve the quality of life of Ugandans through sustainable industrialization for inclusive growth, employment and wealth creation, which is emphasized by the NRM manifesto, among others. Now, to interrogate this and more, we are joined by the Commissioner, Compliance and Enforcement under the Equal Opportunities Commission, and that is Mr. Jemba Evans. Good morning to you, Mr. Jemba.
Yes, good morning. How are you?
Very good. How are you?
I'm also fine.
The Commission has been doing some revisions here and there, doing some checks and balances with the different entities of government. And I know that through December, that's the work you've been doing, assessing what is supposed to be of every government entity. And I want to first find out from you, what has been the performances of the ministries, of the departments and agencies and local governments in terms of gender as well as equity responsive planning and budgeting?
Thanks very much. In terms of performance of government agencies, usually in December, January, we are looking at program budget framework papers. And apparently, government shifted from sector to program budgeting, and we have 20 programs. So we assessed 20 program budget framework papers. In March, we shall be assessing ministries, departments and agencies. So for the government budget framework papers that we assessed this financial year, in preparation for the financial year 2023-2024, the performance declined a bit. Like, for example, on average, the other financial year, the performance was 67%, and this year's average performance declined to 54%.
What led to the decline?
Like, when you look at a number of agencies, they had some commitments that were not implemented. Sometimes due to budget cuts, because you know that the government has been going through hard times financially. So we had a number of agencies that had made commitments that had been qualified as G and E that were never implemented due to financial constraints. And then secondly, when you look at this year's assessments, a number of programs were not actually fully reporting even some of the achievements that they had actually registered. And there are even some achievements that were known. Like, for example, most recently, we saw His Excellency launching 26 ambulances. And some of these were bought ambulances that were targeting hard-to-reach places like Buvuma, Kalangala, places in Amolata. And, you know, those are some of the things that we look out for. We also saw a launch that increased the number of tractors that have been made available to the local farmers. I think to the tune of almost 300 tractors being issued, but with different categories of tractors, you know, the graders and so on and so forth. But you see, when you check some of the program budget framework papers, a lot of this information is not actually reflected. And of course, when you look at the law, it is a requirement that they actually reflect some of this information.
Well, surely some of them reported extremely late, so perhaps they missed these things. Now, we want to find out, in terms of those that reported, regardless of the decline in performance, I do believe that there are some major milestones and achievements that they actually acquired in terms of redressing imbalances as well as promoting equal opportunities, especially amidst the budget proposals that we have, because we have been doing the stories here on NTV, and you're seeing different entities coming out to say with the budget framework paper, they're being given less money than they should be accorded for what they have to achieve in the different seasons of, you know, their service to Ugandans. However, the realities are that government doesn't have money. So where we stand right now, there are still achievements that have been attained regardless of the minimum any more funding for their work?
Thanks very much. Even when you look at generally in terms of government programs, there are a number of programs that government has committed to give money that are actually explicitly supporting gender and equity responsiveness. And to start with, we have the parish development model, against which government committed to fund it with the tune of 1 trillion on an annual basis. And this is a program that was rolled out in this current financial year, and a number of groups have accessing money, but of course it also has other segments embedded within. Because when you look at our vision is to transform people as a nation. And then when you look at our NDP2, we want money in people's pockets to increase their incomes at household level. And if that is why when you look at the parish development model, it is looking at the bottom 39% of the population that is actually low performing economically in terms of, the one that is majorly still into subsistence. So first and foremost, we appreciate the commitment of government to have such interventions that target the lower person, because that is one of the avenues that we can be able to propel into the middle income status by uplifting those in the lower segment to move towards upper segments. And of course, at a program level, there are also a number of programs that have also committed, because when you look at the parish the PDM, it is under regional development, but we have a total of 20 programs. For example, when you look at mindset change that is chaired by the Ministry of Gender, we have been receiving SAGE for older persons who are aged above 80, because some revisions were made, with some exceptions for Karamoja where the age is lower. So, and the concern is older persons aged 60 to 79, they still have energy to engage in business. And the funds have been appropriated, whereby these older persons will also be accessing this money. It is a revolving fund so that they can engage in some business, the way other funds have been operating, like for example, UWEP for women, and then the Youth Livelihood Fund. So even these older persons have been given a special budget in the budget framework paper for that specific program. And then even when you look at the Ministry of Education, where they are making commitments to see that they construct, each sub-county is supposed to have a secondary school, and each parish is supposed to have a primary school. And in the recent, there are some local governments that were added, that of course changes the structure in terms of sub-counties and so on. And of course there are those sub-counties without any form of secondary education. And the ministry is committing, because we want services to move closer to the people. And then when you go to, the programs are many. So actually each program has those specific special commitments that are against which scores are given, because that is what the law provides for. You score with justification why you are giving this program or this sector this kind of score. Okay.
Well, later on I'll be asking equal opportunities in terms of, for example, take the case of teachers in Uganda. You do have science teachers having received their increment. Arts teachers have been asking for an equal opportunity in terms of salary increment, but that is not mushrooming through as requested of. And why is this?
Yeah, first and foremost, the appreciation that needs to be accorded is the willingness of government to address first of all, even before you go to the salary disparities, but to address the question of low wages in public service. Because in 2017-2018, the Equal Opportunities Commission published a report on salary disparity. And we categorically provided recommendations to the Ministry of Public Service to address actually what it is addressing at the moment. Maybe the only aspect is how the recommendations are being implemented, because government is using a phased approach, and perhaps they are looking at the projected income of the country and the economic performance to see how much they can chew at a given point in time. But even much as the arts teachers are still getting a lower pay, because on paper government has made commitment and it has clearly put it that it is going to enhance wages across board, but it is going to move in a phased approach. Okay. So since it is something that is under implementation, and they are implementing the very recommendations that the Equal Opportunities Commission made, that is what I have to comment. All
right, Mr. Jabba, let's come down to statistics. More males, which is about 38.4% compared to females, 35.1%, had found market for their produce in the last 6 months. Then we do have a 39.2% of the vulnerable groups using daily markets to sell their products, followed by those that used middlemen to the tune of 23.8%, and also weekly markets at 21.6% in 2022. Now, important to note that only 1.2% used cooperatives, 0.3% used online marketing arrangements. What does this mean in terms of development of the country and equal opportunities for all?
Yeah, in terms of development, because of course you see government has been emphasizing production, and apparently the emphasis is to have value addition, so that at the end of the day we are able to export things or products that have economic value, because it enhances the incomes for the country. So when you look at those statistics where you have indicated 39% and about 35% for females, first of all, there is no statistical significance in terms of difference between the two, because when you round off, it is almost coming to 40, rounding off to the nearest tens. But of course, when you look at the gap in terms of those who may not be accessing the market, it is a bit high. But apparently, government is moving towards manufacturing and industrialization. And that is why one of the 20 programs of government under NDP 3 is manufacturing. And you also know that a number of industrial parks have been put up. One of them is Namave, with a number of factories, and it is, I understand perhaps now the spaces are filled up, but close to 30 industrial parks have been gazetted. And me, as an advocate of equal opportunities and affirmative action, I'm certain that market will be available. And there are even instances whereby government has had market, but we have failed to supply in terms of quantity. And of course, even the other concern would be in terms of transport, especially in local governments, perhaps whereby sometimes during the rainy season, maybe some of these people find difficulties in ensuring that they access the markets. But of course, even in terms of, because it is an interconnected aspect, whereby it is not just a matter of accessing market, but there are also other factors that are supposed to be facilitating, among which is the knowledge where the market is, then transport, etc. But of course, when you look at where government has come from, I think they have fairly done a fair job, but of course a lot needs to be done to ensure that whatever people produce is able to be put in the market, so that at the end of the day they can have what I can call gainful labor or gainful employment, because when whatever they produce is their employment, the process of having it produced.
Okay. Mr. Jamba, let's talk about merger of government agencies. It's talk that has been around town for a while now. Many people are for it, as many are against it, both inside of government as well as the onlookers ourselves. We're wondering, how does this really come down to aid the country in the first place? So in regards to merging of these government agencies, as far as opportunities are concerned, how safe is this in protecting the equality of opportunities for Ugandans? But also, what's your view on it as Equal Opportunities Commission?
Yeah, of course, people are making arguments based on different facts. Some people are looking at employment, like, for example, where these people are going to go if their agencies are merged. And of course, when you look at our constitution, it is the responsibility of the state to ensure that its nationals are employed. And of course, if government is committed to have more employment opportunities put up, I think that would be the first cardinal aspect that would address a number of concerned citizens, those that are looking at the merger in terms of employment, given the fact that even at the moment some people are still concerned of the fact that there are a number of graduates who are not employed. And of course, in response, a number of factories are being put up, and it is on assumption that a number of people will be absorbed in some of those new developments that are coming up. Okay. But also, secondly, in terms of mandate, some of these agencies are constitutional. Their establishment is embedded into the constitution, and of course that will warrant amendment of the constitution.
All right, Mr. Jemba, in closing remarks, give us the prospects of 2023 as the commission.
Our prospects in 2023, we want to be part of the mobilization drive for the vulnerable and the bottom population especially, to see that they actually engage in various government programs that have been put up, to see that we also support efforts of transforming their lives and also increasing their incomes. And then number two, we want to extend our tribunal services, because we have powers of court. We have a tribunal in which we dispense social justice using a quasi judicial system. And then we also want to, more regularly than before, keep making quick assessments to establish issues that affect the people. Like the most recent of increase in school fees, especially in government schools, whereby we also made the submission and the Ministry of Education made its pronouncement. Okay. And we are going to be part of the team to also keep making follow-up to ensure that these schools actually abide with the guidance that has been issued by the ministry, to ensure that Ugandans are not marginalized. Okay. Yeah.
Well, from Twitter, there's someone who's asking if all ministries have handed in their budgetary proposals.
Yes, they did. All of because they should have, they are supposed to submit but before end of December, and we are in January. So now shortly we shall be waiting, we shall be receiving maybe Feb or March, we shall be receiving the second budget call circular that will now give guidance to the final submission of plans and budgets of ministries, departments and agencies. Okay, I hope this time they respond in time, that you don't need to call for a press conference as you did last time. But thank you so much, Mr. Jemba Evans, who is the Commissioner Compliance and Enforcement under the Equal Opportunities Act. Now in Kickstart this morning, we're going to be looking at Uganda's oil investment. Despite the pressure to go green and despite the heat that we are experiencing in the last 2 days, how is it like in the Albertine region? From my experience with my own bare eyes over the weekend, I was within the region, and the dryness there is quite disturbing. How that relates with the oil production that we are going to be having in the Albertine region, Chris Igenyi returns with that conversation. Stay with us.